In the dark spring waters of the North Atlantic, a legend was born, and just as quickly, it was lost. The year was 1941. Europe was deep in the grip of the Second World War. Hitler's forces had swept through Poland, France, Norway, and much of the continent. Only one major power stood in his way across the English Channel: Britain, isolated, bombed from the air, and dependent on food and weapons from overseas. Britain's survival depended entirely on its supply lines. Merchant ships, often unarmed, sailed across the Atlantic from Canada, the United States, and elsewhere, bringing vital cargo: food, oil, steel, tanks, aircraft, medicine. But all of that had to pass through waters where German U-boats prowled like wolves. The Atlantic was not just a trade route, it was a battlefield. And then, into this deadly game of cat and mouse, Germany introduced a monster, the Bismarck, a colossus of steel named after Otto von Bismarck, the 19th century statesman who had unified Germany. The battleship Bismarck was the most powerful warship ever built by Nazi Germany, and one of the most heavily armed in the world at the time. Laid down in 1936, launched in 1939, and commissioned in August 1940. It was both a technological marvel and a symbol of German ambition. The ship was more than 800 feet long, nearly the length of the Empire State Building turned on its side. It displaced over 50,000 tons when fully loaded, making it the heaviest battleship ever built by a European navy. Its main battery consisted of 8 15-inch 38-centimeter guns mounted in for massive turrets, capable of firing shells over 20 miles. Supporting weapons included dozens of smaller caliber anti-aircraft guns and torpedo tubes. Its armor was thicker than most tanks, with a belt of steel up to 320 millimeters thick around the hull. Every major part of the ship, its magazines, engine, rooms, control centers, was wrapped in layers of steel and reinforced bulkheads. It was a floating fortress, but all that steel came at a cost. The Bismarck was powerful, but not without flaws. It lacked long-range reconnaissance planes, had unreliable radar, and its rudder system, though protected, was vulnerable if hit. Still, on paper, the Bismarck looked unstoppable. The mission begins in May 1941. Hitler gave the green light to Operation Rheinabing, a mission to break into the Atlantic and attack Allied shipping lanes. The Bismarck, along with the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen, would attempt to reach the open sea undetected, destroy as many supply ships as possible, and return to friendly ports in occupied France. On May 18th, the two German ships left Bergen, Norway, sailing through the Denmark Strait, the cold, treacherous waters between Greenland and Iceland. Their movement was masked by poor weather and the darkness of the northern latitudes. But the British were watching. The Royal Navy, with its global reach, had a vast intelligence network. Radio transmissions were intercepted. German movements were monitored. British reconnaissance planes and submarines had spotted something moving in the north. When reports confirmed the presence of the Bismarck, the Royal Navy acted swiftly. The British home fleet, including battleships, aircraft, carriers, and cruisers, was mobilized. Among them were the battlecruiser HMS Hood and the newly built battleship Prince of Wales. These two ships were ordered to intercept the Bismarck before it could reach the open Atlantic. Battle in the Denmark Strait. In the morning of May 24th, the Hood and Prince of Wales found their target. The sea was rough, the weather cold, and visibility limited. At 5:52 a.m., the battle began. The Hood opened fire first, followed quickly by the Prince of Wales. But they made a critical error. They misjudged which German ship was the Bismarck, and initially targeted the Prinz Eugen. The Germans responded swiftly. The Bismarck's third salvo was devastating. A shell penetrated the Hood's thin deck armor and detonated in the ship's aft magazine, where ammunition was stored. The result was catastrophic. The Hood exploded in a massive fireball. Within minutes, the mighty ship broke into and sank. Of the 1,421 men aboard, only 3 survived. It was the worst naval disaster in British history. The Prince of Wales continued the fight but was damaged and forced to retreat. The Bismarck had won, but it had also taken hits. One shell struck her bow, causing flooding and a fuel leak. The ship was wounded, leaking oil into the ocean and leaving a visible trail. The hunt against the Royal Navy was stunned and enraged. The loss of the Hood was more than a tactical defeat. It was a blow to British pride. Prime Minister Winston Churchill famously ordered, Sink the Bismarck, whatever the cost. Over the next 48 hours, the greatest naval chase in modern history unfolded. British ships and aircraft spread across the Atlantic. Submarines took up blocking positions, ships raced to intercept, aircraft carriers scrambled planes. The Bismarck, meanwhile, attempted to escape. Its commander, Admiral Gunther Lütjens, decided to head for the port of Saint-Nazaire in France, where German-controlled dry docks could repair the damage. But the British were closing in. On May 26, a British reconnaissance plane spotted the Bismarck just 700 miles from the French coast. Time was running out. The Swordfish strike that evening. The aircraft carrier Ark Royal launched a squadron of Fairey Swordfish torpedo bombers, slow, fragile biplanes from another era. Against modern warships, these outdated aircraft might have seemed laughable, but they had one advantage. They flew low and slow, too low for the Bismarck's guns to target effectively. In terrible weather, through wind and rain, the Swordfish pressed their attack. Torpedoes splashed into the sea. Most missed, but one hit the Bismarck at the worst possible spot, her rudder. The explosion jammed the steering system. The Bismarck could no longer sail in a straight line. She could only turn in wide circles. She was crippled and trapped. The final bat line. The early hours of May 27th, the British fleet closed in. Battleships King George V and Rodney led the attack. They fired relentlessly, over 700 shells in 90 minutes. The Bismarck returned fire, but her gun crews were exhausted and her turrets malfunctioned. One by one, they fell silent. Fires raged. The ship listed. Her radar tower collapsed. Below deck, sailors tried in vain to save her, bailing water. By hand, fighting flames, carrying shells without elevators. It was hopeless. At 10:39 a.m., the Bismarck began to sink. Some say the crew scuttled her to avoid capture. Others believe it was British torpedoes that delivered the final blow. Perhaps it was both. What is certain is that the mighty Bismarck, Hitler's pride, disappeared beneath the Atlantic. Of the 2,200 men aboard, only 114 survived. Legacy. Beneath the wave-esque wreck of the Bismarck was not found until 1989, lying nearly 3 miles beneath the surface. The ship, though broken and rusted, was still recognizable. Its guns lay silent. Its armor was twisted and torn. It had become a grave, a cold, dark tomb beneath the sea. The Bismarck never sank a single supply ship. The very purpose of its mission, its voyage, which began in confidence and national glory, ended in failure, death, and silence. But its story endures. Historians, divers, and writers continue to study it, not just for the firepower or strategy, but for what it symbolizes. The Bismarck was more than a ship. It was a lesson in hubris, in overconfidence, in how even the strongest weapons, the boldest plans, and the grandest symbols can fall, brought down by fragile planes, relentless enemies, and the unforgiving sea. Conclusion: power and pride. The Bismarck was meant to rule the oceans. Instead, it vanished beneath them. It reminds us that no force, no matter how mighty, is above destruction. No nation is too powerful to fall. No warship is too strong to sink. In the end, it is not steel or firepower that defines a legacy, but the human choices behind them. In war, pride can be a weapon and a weakness. The Bismarck teaches us both. The German battleship Bismarck stands as a symbol of naval ambition, technological prowess, and the transient nature of military supremacy. Commissioned in 1940, the Bismarck was the largest and most powerful warship ever built by Nazi Germany. Its brief operational history, culminating in its sinking in 1941, had profound implications on naval warfare and strategy during World War II. This essay delves into the Bismarck's design, its role in naval operations, the events leading to its demise, and the lasting lessons drawn from its legacy. Design and construction. Origins and specifications. Bismarck was conceived in the mid-1930s as part of Germany's rearmament program, which aimed to defy the constraints imposed by the Treaty of Versailles. The ship was designed to challenge the naval dominance of the British Royal Navy. Constructed at the Blohm and Voss shipyard in Hamburg, the Bismarck was launched in February 1939 and commissioned in August 1940. With a displacement of over 50,000 tons, it was equipped with 8 15-inch guns capable of reaching speeds up to 30 knots and heavily armored to withstand enemy fire. and strategic intent. Bismarck was envisioned as a formidable battleship to disrupt Allied shipping lanes in the Atlantic. Its primary mission was to engage and destroy British merchant convoys, thereby crippling the supply lines vital to Britain's war effort. The ship's formidable firepower and speed were intended to instill fear and assert German naval dominance. 2. Operational Historia. Operation Rheinübung. In May 1941, the Bismarck, alongside the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen, embarked on Operation Rheinübung, a mission aimed at disrupting Allied shipping in the Atlantic. The operation commenced from Norway, and the ships made their way into the Atlantic Ocean. On May 24th, the Bismarck engaged the British battlecruiser HMS Hood and the battleship Prince of Wales in the Battle of the Denmark Strait. The Bismarck's fire proved devastating, sinking the HMS Hood and damaging the Prince of Wales. Britannica.com +to un.wikipedia.org +to un.wikipedia.org +to be pursued and sinking. Following the battle, the Bismarck was pursued by the British Royal Navy. On May 26th, British aircraft from the carrier HMS Ark Royal launched an attack, and one torpedo hit the Bismarck, damaging its steering gear and rendering it uncontrollable. The following day, British battleships King George V and Rodney, along with cruisers and destroyers, engaged the Bismarck in a relentless assault. After sustained shellfire and torpedo hits, the Bismarck was scuttled by its crew to prevent capture. Of the approximately 2,200 crew members, only about 110 survived. WarfareHistoryNetwork.com and .wikipedia.org. II. Technological and tactical implications. The end of the battleship array's sinking of the Bismarck marked a significant shift in naval warfare. Despite its formidable design, the Bismarck was vulnerable to air attacks, highlighting the increasing importance of aircraft carriers and air superiority in naval engagements. The event demonstrated that even the most powerful battleships could be defeated by relatively smaller and more agile aircraft. EBSCO.com. B. Lessons in Intelligence and Strategic Pursuit and Eventual Sinking of the Bismarck underscored the critical role of intelligence and strategic planning. British codebreakers intercepted German communications, providing crucial information that led to the Bismarck's location. Additionally, the coordinated efforts of various naval and air units exemplified the importance of joint operations in modern warfare. 4. Legacy and cultural impact. Symbol of German naval ambitions. Bismarck became a symbol of Nazi Germany's naval aspirations and its desire to challenge British maritime supremacy. Its brief but impactful campaign captured the imagination of both the Axis and Allied powers, serving as a testament to Germany's industrial capabilities and military ambitions. Wikipedia.org. B. Influence on naval design and doctrine. At the events surrounding the Bismarck influenced post-war naval design and doctrine. The vulnerability of the battleship to air attacks led to a re-evaluation of naval strategies, emphasizing the development of aircraft carriers and submarines. Navies worldwide adapted their tactics and ship designs to incorporate lessons learned from the Bismarck's operational history. BSCO.com. C. Cultural representation. Story of the Bismarck has been immortalized in various forms of media, including films, books, and documentaries. The 1960 film Sink the Bismarck dramatized the events surrounding the ship's final mission, while numerous historical accounts and analyses have been published, ensuring that the legacy of the Bismarck endures in popular culture. ShippingKnowHow.net. V. Conclusion. The German battleship Bismarck serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities of naval warfare and the transient nature of military dominance. Its design epitomized the zenith of battleship technology, yet its vulnerability to air attacks highlighted the evolving nature of naval combat. The events leading to its sinking underscored the importance of intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. In warfare, the legacy of the Bismarck continues to influence naval strategies and serves as a subject of study for military historians and enthusiasts alike. The Bismarck was one of the most formidable and advanced battleships of its time, designed by Nazi Germany to dominate the seas during World War II. Its specialties stem from a combination of size, firepower, armor protection, speed, and technology, some of which made it stand out in naval history. 1. Massive size and displacement. At over 250 meters, about 820 feet long, the Bismarck was longer than 3 American football fields. It displaced around 50,000 tons, making it one of the largest battleships ever built. This massive size allowed it to carry an enormous amount of weapons, armor, fuel, and provisions for long missions. 2. Powerful armament. The Bismarck's main offensive strength was its 8 15-inch 38-centimeters guns, arranged in for twin turrets. These guns could fire shells weighing around 1,000 kilograms to 1,200 pounds over a distance of more than 20 miles 32 kilometers. The ship also had a significant number of secondary guns and anti-aircraft weapons to defend itself against aircraft and smaller ships. The sheer power of these guns made the Bismarck capable of destroying most ships it encountered in battle, such as the HMS Hood. 3. Heavy armor protection. The Bismarck was heavily armored to withstand enemy shellfire. Its belt armor along the sides was up to 320 mm 12.6 inches thick. The deck armor was designed to protect against aerial bombs and plunging shell fire, reaching thicknesses up to 120 mm 4.7 inches. This armor was thicker and more effective than most battleships of its era, giving it exceptional survivability in battle. 4. High speed. For its size. Despite its size and heavy armor, the Bismarck could reach speeds of up to 30 knots, about 35 miles per hour or 56 kilometers per hour. This speed was impressive for a battleship and allowed it to outrun slower enemies or position itself tactically during battle. 5. Advanced fire control systems. The Bismarck featured sophisticated fire control technology for its main guns. It used optical rangefinders and analog mechanical computers to calculate firing solutions. This technology improved accuracy at long ranges, making its massive guns even deadlier. 6. Dual-purpose radar and sensors. The Bismarck was equipped with radar systems that could detect other ships and aircraft. Although primitive by modern standards, this gave it an edge in detecting enemies beyond visual range. However, compared to Allied ships, its radar was somewhat outdated and less effective. 7. Robust engineering and crew capacity. The ship's engines produced over 150,000 horsepower, driving for propellers. It had a crew of approximately 2,200 sailors, including officers, gunners, engineers, and other specialists. The Bismarck was designed for extended operations at sea, with significant fuel capacity and onboard facilities. 8. Symbolic and psychological power. Beyond its physical capabilities, the Bismarck served as a symbol of Nazi Germany's naval ambitions and technological strength. Its reputation was meant to intimidate Allied naval forces and influence the strategic calculus in the Atlantic. Summarized. Bismarck's specialties lay in its combination of enormous size and displacement, powerful and long-range main guns, exceptional armor protection, surprising speed and maneuverability for a battleship, advanced fire control and radar systems, large, well-trained crew and engineering capacity. These features made the Bismarck a fearsome opponent, capable of challenging even the strongest naval forces of its time. Its design reflected the peak of battleship technology before air power and submarines began to dominate naval warfare.